Hi guys, today's video is sort of a continued one on from the video before, which was sort of where I was explaining how I'd had quite a big backslide back into the worst side of my depression and how I had to take a step back for a bit. And I thought, well, I was having very tough time thinking, what can I do for the video, today? And my best friend Abby said, well, why don't you show and say how it's been to sort of get back on your feet? So I thought that was a great idea. So that's what the video is today, is sort of about once you've fallen back into that pit of depression, anxiety, self-harm, even suicidal thoughts, how do you sort of drag yourself back up so you're not in so deep? And that's what I had to do. Once I told you I'd gone, I've been dragged to the doctors again because my depression had got worse again. So after that, I sort of had to make a decision. Did I want to continue on going further and further into my depression and, get as further as when I started? That was suicidal behaviour, even planning, trying to commit suicide. Do I want to get to that far and give up? Or do I want to stop it now and carry on and sort of get back onto a safe level? And it was a hard decision because a big part of me was like, I know some people will understand that. A big part of me was like, well, all that work for nothing. I'm back to where, I'm back in this horrible depression, darkness. But then there's a small part of you that's sort of like, yeah, but do you not know how good those days were when you had a good day, the good feeling? So I sort of had a long think with myself, and my mum talked to me, and she was like, you can do it. I know you can do it. You've done it once before. You're not in as far as you were as before. You can do it. It's just going to take a lot of work. So I decided I'm going to do it. So I took all the advice I'd given you lot so far. I watched the videos, to remind you, to remind myself of what worked for me, because I give advice of what worked for me in the past and what I've been taught in therapy and what I've learned. So I then rewatched my videos. It was a bit awkward at first, and then sort of took the advice I'd given you and sort of threw it on myself. I then set little tasks for myself to sort of get me outside my bedroom and outside this bubble that I'd created full of depression. I took my dog for a walk, a few times a day. So that got me out of my house. When my mum was home from work, I'd, go into the living room and spend some time with her watching a TV program or just talking, because then I was out of my bedroom. I was breaking the routine. I answered more, I replied to your lot emails, faster. I didn't, I felt getting back on track with the blog could help. And I sort of did that, and gradually, it took a lot, and some days I was like, I really just don't see the point. And it was really hard. I'm nowhere near. I've taken like a baby step in the amount from the last video I did. I've taken like a tiny baby step from where I was. I'm still in that big, pit of depression, but I've got like a baby step up from where I was. I'm not constantly in this depression of bubble depression. I've sort of taken myself out a few times a day. I can distract myself with TV shows, with a book, with music. I've got my Don't Give Up playlist on, a lot of the time. I'm finding new songs that help me understand what I'm feeling. And also, my friend that I mentioned earlier, who gave me this idea to do the video today, also sort of came around and snapped me out of myself. You know, I don't know if anyone's got a friend like that, or even if it's a family member or anything that can sort of just tell you to snap yourself out of it. You know, just tell you how it is and to snap yourself out of this bubble you're in. So I spent the day with her yesterday, and she sort of gave me some hope. She sort of, you know, she let me talk it all out. You know, we had a good laugh, and it really, you know, gave me new hope, some inspiration, and a really, you know, new sense of that I can do this. If she believes in me, you know, if she believes so hard that I'm going to be fine and that I can do it, then there's got to be, you know, I've got to do it. You know, not only am I doing it for myself, but I'm doing it for her, I'm doing it for my family, my friends. And it really helps, you know, just to spend a day with somebody that can take your mind off it completely and also help you deal with your feelings. And that is exactly what I needed, and that is why she's my best friend. So if anyone's got a friend like that, or a family member that can sort of let you talk all your feelings out, but also let you, give you a good laugh and distract you, but then also, you know, help you snap out of yourself and, you know, sort of see it from a different perspective and sort of help you get your views in order, then I think that's a really good way to go about it. And also in the last video I said that I'd fallen back down into where I'd self-harmed again quite badly, and when you, a lot of people who do watch these videos and self-harm, when you self-harm, it is, I've said before, it is like any addiction. It is drugs, it's alcohol, it's any of those. It is an addiction that you will deal with for the rest of your life, and it does give you a release, and I feel a lot better once I've done it. And I must admit, when I did it, it was, you know, I was, you know, it was like a weight had been lifted off my shoulders. But then afterwards, a few hours afterwards, I hated myself because I'd gone so long without it that I'd sort of fallen back. And it is like when you know, start over, you know, when you start, you know, weaning off cigarettes, you know, alcohol, drugs, you are in like, you have to cut it out. I mean, some people cut it out completely, and I've tried that before and it didn't work because it's going cold turkey for me, didn't work at all. So what I did was an elastic band, you know, put it around your wrist and snap it, because it doesn't actually break the skin, but it does give you that shock factor. And I know other people have done like hair pulling, ice cubes, and I sort of wean myself off that way. And that's what I'm doing again now. I sort of have to wean myself off the self-harm, and it's very, very hard and very tiring, because any sort of little, even if it could be any sort of trigger, any tiny trigger, I want to go and self-harm. So it takes a lot of energy to sort of fight that, but I also know that it's worth it, because I don't want to have to be, you know, the person that, you know, carries around things that can harm myself. I don't want to go back to that. I know that I can live days and months without self-harming, and I love that. I love being able to deal with a problem without grabbing something to cut myself with, and I want to get back to that. And I know it's going to take months to sort of go completely, but I know it's worth it. So I think if people are sort of cutting back on their self-harm, I think what worked for me really well was, I tried the ice cubes and that worked quite well, but you can't really have ice with you all the time. So that's why I sort of found it a bit difficult. So I went for the elastic band around your wrist, and that really helped me. But no, there is quite a few, I mean, it's all over the internet, tips on how to sort of reduce your self-harm, but elastic band sort of was my go-to, because it's with you 24/7 then. And it's a lot easier, and you don't cut yourself, you know, with that. And it's a lot easier to wean yourself off an elastic band, like if it breaks or something. And eventually I ran out of rubber bands, and I literally thought that when I was getting low that I'd have to go and buy them straight away, but I realised I didn't need it. And eventually you will, but it does take a while and sometimes you will fall backwards like I did, but it's worth it to go completely without having to harm yourself. It's very, very worth it. And I know I've sort of waffled on in this video, but what I really wanted to point out in this video is, even if you have a big, you know, dip back in to where you started from, or even just going backwards, it's okay. It's bound to happen. I mean, I've done a few backslides over the years, and this one was a bad one, probably one of the worst ones I've done. But I know that I can't give up, because if you give up on yourself, then you've got nothing. You know, the last thing you can do is ever give up on yourself, because if you give up on yourself, you've got nothing. And I think, you know, as long as you have that tiny belief in yourself, that tiny bit of hope, then it's always worth fighting. You know, it's always worth fighting for the right for you to live and for a better life. And I honestly believe that if you just, you know, even tiny little baby steps like I'm doing at a time, and it can take months, it can take years, but you will get there eventually. And I've gone months with some good days, and it is totally worth it. And to be honest, I felt normal. Well, not normal, but, you know, happy like people my age. So I honestly just wanted this video to be about that. Even if you take a big backslide, you can get back to where you were. You can even move forward. It doesn't necessarily mean that you have to give up and that it's the end of it. You learn from it. That's what you do. You learn from what made you take that big backslide, what, you know, what led up to it, and then you learn from it, and it makes you a lot stronger, and you won't go back. You won't take a big dip from the same reason that led to this dip, because you would have learned from it. So every little fall you take and every little step from this depression or anxiety, self-harm, anything like that, is a lesson learned. And it gives you one sort of more protection against the fight against yourself. It gives you like another life. You know, every time you fall and get back up, you get another life. And I honestly, truly believe that it's worth something. It's worth to not give up, you know. It's worth, like, this past week, it was worth to see the smile on my best friend's face when I told her that I didn't give up. I got back on, I got back up, and I'm carrying on, I'm doing things. It was worth it to see my mum smile and laugh when I came out to join her that I hadn't done in so long. You know, watch a TV show with her that I hadn't done in so long. It's really worth it. And if you're having trouble doing it for yourself, do it for your family and friends right now. And eventually, when you're doing it for them, you'll find that bit for yourself, and it will come along. Sorry, I've got a bit of a cold. So this was all the video was about, really. And also, I wanted to thank you all for the huge response that the last video got, which was over 300 views, and that meant the world to me, considering it was very personal about how I'd fallen down a bit. So thank you very much. And so keep the emails, messages coming in. I will be getting back to the blog soon. I know I sort of left it, but I needed to take a step back. But I'm still doing these videos, and they'll be coming weekly, and eventually I will get back up to speed. But thank you everyone who's also messaged me to see if I need a shoulder or someone to talk to, or, you know, a hug, and seeing how I'm doing. It means the world to me. So thank you everybody for everything you're doing for me and for the group, and I really hope I can continue to give you some advice and some help. So thank you very much.